Hello everyone, Dikshak Bhatt here from the team OYG. I welcome you all on behalf of our team to this another interesting OYG session. Today we have a wonderful speaker, Dr. Susie Colles. Susie Colles is a dietitian, Ayurvedic practitioner, and a yoga therapist. Her degree includes a Bachelor of Science in Human Movement, a Master degree in Nutrition and Dietetics, and a PhD that examines links between the weight management, eating behavior, metabolism, and psychology. She has also completed more than 1,200 hours of formal Ayurveda study under the experienced Indian and Western Ayurvedic doctors. She has written many peer-reviewed scientific papers in the area of nutrition, and the last year, her book was published called Art of the Ayurvedic Nutrition. Susie will tell us more about her experience, and today we're going to talk about the science of Ayurvedic nutrition. I welcome you, ma'am, on behalf of our team and all of the students here we are listening. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us your time and everything.
Yeah.
Now, ma'am, without further ado, I would like you to take over and shed your light of knowledge with us.
Okay, sure. So thanks very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for the introduction, I guess. So yeah, my background is as a clinical dietitian for about 10 years. I worked in Australia and the UK. As a sort of a weight loss counsellor as well. And then I did, a PhD. So I've worked in health research, done some lecturing, worked in women's health development. And then around 12 years ago, perhaps in Africa, I met my husband who is Indian. And we eventually moved to India, which is when I started studying Ayurveda. And really for me, as a Western dietitian, I was feeling a bit disgruntled with the science and feeling like I really wasn't having an impact on the people that I was working with. So to find Ayurveda and as a holistic health system, and then as part of that, the nutritional aspect for me was wonderful. So yeah, I'd really love to share it with you, just give you an overview of Ayurvedic nutrition. Because it's a very practical way to view the human body, to view the food that we eat, and to work towards holistic health. So I guess I'll just give a brief overview of Ayurveda itself, which of course is the traditional health system of India. It's a healing system, but really first and foremost, it is a health system, because rather than wait for someone to get sick and then try to cure them, it's more really a way of maintaining good health and health balance, so not getting sick at all. But of course, it does have quite a comprehensive healing strategy. So it's a living science, and it sees the human being as a holistic entity. And I'll get a little more into that. But yeah, rather than, I guess, the Western science is quite reductionist. So looking at, I guess, organs and cells and intracellular bits and pieces, which can be great, but it can also be quite hard to conceive for ourselves, to understand ourselves in that way as well. So Ayurveda is a more holistic, more tangible system, and it works with the 5 great elements of Mother Nature. So earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And it's these elements that are make up the world around us. They make up the foods that we eat, and of course they make up the human body. And so by understanding these 5 great elements, the qualities particularly of these elements, we can really easily understand our bodies, our metabolism much better, who we are, what our tendencies are, and then understand foods, and particularly through their tastes and other qualities that I'll talk about. We can understand that the elements and the qualities in food and how to eat to balance our unique constitution. So yeah, talking of the unique constitution, which is known to Ayurveda as the dosha, which I'm sure you've probably, or hope you may have come across before. So the three dosha are, I mean, I think of them as sort of subtle, intelligent managers within the human body. And there are the three dosha, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. And each dosha manages two of the five great elements. So Vata dosha manages air and ether, which are lighter, drier, more mobile elements. And then Pitta dosha manages fire predominantly and also has water in its mix, because in the body, fire needs to be in a liquid medium or it would burn our tissues. So it's the only dosha that has fire in its mix. So naturally it's hot, it's sharp, and it's slightly oily because of the water element. And then Kapha dosha is predominant, or it's the intelligent manager of earth and water in the body. So these are two heavier elements, more dense. And so those with a dominance of earth and water in the body, which would have the constitution of Kapha dosha, tend to be or have the qualities of heaviness, of coolness. These are two cool qualities as well. So yeah, let me see, look at my notes. So yeah, we I guess get to know the dosha through, as I said, the qualities that we can begin to observe in ourselves. And this is, I guess, a start to understanding dosha. And of course, there are a lot of questionnaires that, you know, online questionnaires that you can do. For example, in my book, I've got a dosha table. But really that's only the start, because there's, we might get a snapshot, but then there's, yeah, every day to really be observing ourselves and also observing the elements in the world around us as cycles move through the day, through the month, through the seasons, and even through the life cycle. The elements around us are always changing, and Ayurveda deeply understands that they influence us each as individuals. So not only looking within, but also how the environment is affecting us is a really important aspect of maintaining holistic health. So in the environment, of course, one major aspect is food. And foods, of course, we're breathing in air, we're taking in sights and sounds, and the senses are always bringing in elements and qualities into the body. But the foods we eat are a very tangible way that we also consume elements and qualities, and they deeply affect us. So in Western nutrition, as I said, it tends to focus on smaller and smaller parts, so the macronutrients, the micronutrients in particular. And I guess so that kind of becomes a way that we've come to know food through, you know, it may be a panel on the package, or we know that oranges are high in vitamin C, or these sorts of things, and you know that's good for us. But for me, I find that quite an intangible way to relate to food, because we're kind of reducing it down to these substances that we can't see. So, and really don't understand, I guess, where we might know their chemical structure or something like that if we do, but I mean, what does that really tell us? So, as I said, yeah, I find Ayurveda much more tangible to understand foods more through their qualities in particular. And I guess the one of the primary qualities of food is taste. So Ayurvedic nutrition, one of the really important aspects of food is its natural taste, the flavour, and that gives us an idea actually what elements are in the food. And through choosing particular tastes, we can take in more of some elements into the body. Through reducing some tastes in the diet, we can avoid taking in some other elements that may be imbalancing for our elemental mix, our dosha mix. Are you still with me? Give me a nod if...
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
So, yeah. Okay. Am I going through too fast, or it's all
No, ma'am, it's perfectly fine.
following? Good, good. Okay. So so there are 6 tastes in Ayurveda: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. And I'll come back to the taste perhaps and talk a little more about those. And there are also other qualities in foods that are particularly important and for us to observe and to use in our to guide our food choice. In particular, hot and cold foods. And this refers a little bit to their temperature, but more so really to when we eat the food, what the immediate reaction that food has in the body. And that's known as the virya. So that's foods either tend to have a more heating or a more cooling energy in the body, and that has an immediate impact on us when we eat it. So that's really important because, as I said, Pitta dosha, for example, has fire in its mix. So if you are high in the fire element, so you're a more Pitta dosha person, then you'll probably want to eat foods that have a more cooling energy in order to manage your health balance. And vice versa. Vata is the coldest dosha, so eating some more heating foods, that sort of thing. And there's also, Ayurveda sees that foods have a long-term effect on the body, which is heating and cooling, but also building or lightening. And that's the vipaka. And maybe if I have time, I'll come back to that. But yeah, without giving, I guess, too much information in the one hit. So other qualities that are quite important, as I said, are light and heavy. You know, there are. I'm sure if you thought about it, you could, you know, work out quite easily, I guess, what some foods that are heavy, deep fried foods, meat, dairy foods in general, mostly animal products, I guess, tend to be quite heavy. They're heavy to digest, and they're also in their innate qualities, they're quite heavy. So Vata dosha, for example, who are dominant in the elements of air and ether, which are light elements, can benefit from having small amounts of more heavy foods. As I said, they can be difficult to digest, so you don't want to be eating too much and challenging the digestion. Digestion being another very important aspect of Ayurvedic nutrition and health. And light foods, so perhaps dry roasted foods, puffed foods, bread with its whole, you know, the yeast creates little air pockets. These foods, they're quite light, and they tend to be drying, reducing in nature. So rather than build tissues, they take moisture from the body. So they're not really good healing foods, let's say, if we're trying to build and nurture and nourish tissues, but they can be very good if we want to reduce tissues, so to support weight management, for example, or in Kapha dosha, who are high in the elements of earth and water, tend to take on and build tissues quite easily. So more light foods are definitely going to help them to manage the heaviness in their nature. And yeah, so I guess moist and dry, as I said, more qualities. So yeah, understanding foods through their tangible qualities is one of the really important aspects of Ayurvedic nutrition, which is really very distinct, as I said, from understanding foods as calories, as nutrients, which is really, I guess, yeah, you know, relying on a scientist to tell us what or the estimated nutrients are in a food, and trying to use that as a guide is, yeah, for me a far less tangible way to understand and work with food. So yeah, as I said, the qualities in food allow us to choose foods that are going to complement our own nature. And Ayurveda is sort of, this is the rational approach. So, and there's two, I guess, overarching ideas that in this rational approach. And one is, I mean, they're more than ideas, they're really, they're cosmic realities, let's say, that like attracts like. So if I'm a Pitta dosha and I'm naturally quite hot, it's actually, I'm more likely to take on more heat, to attract more heat. And that becomes a risk for me, because I'm more likely to then get hot and then suffer from diseases of high pitta, of high heat in the body. And also, the more imbalanced I become, the more I actually tend to want to maybe eat spicy foods, or you know, choose deep fried foods, which is really a kind of, I see it as a derangement in our natural intelligence. When we're quite healthy, or just with a slight imbalance, if I'm feeling hot, I might think to myself, I want a cool glass of water, and that's what I'll get. And that's balancing the qualities there and bringing me back to an equilibrium. But the more out of balance, the more unwell I become, the less likely I am to be able to understand intuitively what my body needs. And that's really how a lot of people get themselves into deep water and have these chronic health conditions, because the less healthy we are, the more difficult it can be for people to truly understand what, you know, what works for them, what they need. And of course, in today's healthcare system, a lot of the personal responsibility and the importance of understanding ourselves and honouring our own feelings, and truly experiencing our own body and how things work for us has kind of been taken away from us, because doctors put themselves there as the experts, of course. And yeah, so we're looking to clinical tests and doctors to tell us how we are and, you know, what we should do, when really we should be understanding ourselves. We're the best people to understand ourselves, and as individuals, it's really the onus is on us to develop ourselves as physical, mental, spiritual people that we are, each one of us, you know, to really create our fullest nature. So to, yeah, understand ourselves more wholly, we can make more intelligent, independent and individual choices for ourselves a lot better. So got a bit off the track there, but anyway, that needed to be said. So there's like attracts. So there's like attracts like, and then the second of the major tenets of the rational therapy is opposites reduce. So I sort of got onto that when we were talking about the qualities. If I'm high in heat, I'm going to choose cooling foods. And we'll come back, I'll come back to that, but that's really, summarizes in a way the major idea of Ayurvedic nutrition, that we're working to balance the qualities, balance the elements, balance the dosha in each of us. And of course, as I said, they're all we're born with a unique mix of elements, and that becomes our birth constitution, our prakriti, our dosha, our birth constitution. But over time, we take on more elements and qualities through the environment, through our foods, and so every day is different, and that's why it's so important to keep observing and making new choices. So I touched on digestion, and that's a really important aspect of Ayurveda, and I guess I'll come back to that perhaps if we have time, but just to say that rather than just, I guess, something that's carried out in the stomach and perhaps liver and the intestines, which of course is the prime, I guess, area of digestion of food in the body. Ayurveda also understands that the digestive process occurs in every cell of the body. And from the time that we eat food, of course, it's broken down in the stomach and liver and particularly small intestine. But then, or stomach and small intestine, then it moves to the liver, where it undergoes another refining stage. And then a third stage, as the food in its finer, let's say, as fine a substance, is incorporated into every tissue in the body. And so there's digestion and assimilation going on in every tissue of the body. And so if all stages of the digestion are not working optimally, of course, the body can't be fully nourished. So digestion, keeping the digestive fires strong, and balancing them in our own body. And again, the dosha or doshas that are dominant in us affect our digestion. So again, it's working with our unique digestion, perhaps managing, of course, the foods that we eat, our eating patterns, how many meals a day we might eat, to optimize our digestive capacity, to fully enable the body to be nourished and healthy. So yeah, I guess another important aspect, and something I certainly, I mean, everything I'm talking about now, I cover in my book, and something else that's particularly relevant, and certainly I think a growing awareness of in general today, is the importance of eating local, seasonal, fresh, natural foods. And of course, this was always the way that Ayurveda viewed and worked with foods. It's only really been very recently, as our transportation capability, like refrigeration, transportation, over the last even 50, 100 years has improved, that now, foods are zipping all over the planet. We're, getting blueberries from Colombia and pineapples from, wherever. And so we now have access to, firstly, foods that are they're not local, they're grown wherever, and our digestive fires may never have come across these foods before. So that's certainly not going to support good digestion. They're probably not seasonal, and again, ideally the body wants to be in a nice rhythm where it's we're not moving around too much. The seasons come and go, and the body understands them, and it goes through these cycles, and even the digestion understands that foods are going to change, the ambient temperature is going to change, and it adjusts itself nicely, and you know, everything sort of stays in harmony. But of course that's not the case today, and we're all moving around, and we're eating foods that aren't local, that aren't even seasonal, that aren't fresh. And freshness is a really important aspect of eating. And so many of the foods that we eat today are not fresh. They've been processed, and usually over-processed, hyper-processed, had all of the life sucked out of them, really. And when I say life, I guess Ayurveda and yoga are talking about prana, which is really the you know, the creative life force that energizes the entire universe, and is the energy that is our most subtle, the most subtle substance that enlivens us. And so when Ayurveda talks about nutrients, let's say, prana is the basic holistic nutrient that we really want to be taking in from food. And fresh foods are alive and full of prana, whereas foods that have been, you know, I mean, gosh, doused in chemicals in the fields, and then perhaps harvested early before they're ripe, and then stored for a long time, perhaps until the price in the market goes up, and then, you know, they're sent out, and then they're passed from hands to hands of you know, market vendors whose main intention is to make profit from the food, and then there are cars driving by, and you know, and then we buy the food, and then it sits in our fridge for a few days, and you know, that sort of, and of course a lot of the, as I said, a lot of the foods go to food manufacturers and are refined, further refined. So by the time, and then of course the food is cooked, and cooking can certainly help the body to have access to the nutrients available in food, which is great, but overcooking or cooking and freezing, cooking and letting food sit there for too long, undercooking, overspicing, using poor quality foods like oils, for example, refined oils, let me just say, are, people like the idea of refined, but actually refined oils are usually heat and chemical extracted, and the oil is destroyed. So frying in refined oils as opposed to cold pressed or preferably organic, I guess, oils, you know, ruins a meal. And so we really need to try to think local, think seasonal, think fresh. Really important aspects of Ayurveda, and as I said, I think in the general, increasing in the general psyche. But I mean, of course, you know, you have to put a little bit of work, a little bit of time and effort into understanding, for example, what's seasonal. Although, I mean, India is so wonderful for its markets in every town, really. So you can quite easily see what's seasonal, which is great. So yeah. And then of course, so we talked about, I mean, eating local, seasonal, fresh is a way to optimize digestion, of course, a way to optimize the prana in the foods which we bring into the body, and to really optimize the qualities of the foods that are available to us. And from a Western perspective, of course, the nutrients, the nutrition. then when we're eating unseasonal foods, when we're eating foreign foods, unnatural foods, over processed foods, one of the other side effects is that the digestion suffers, and the foods are not, we're not able to completely break the foods down and assimilate them into the tissues. And what happens from an Ayurvedic perspective is that toxins, which are sort of side products of the digestive process, they're created. And these are, the body often, it may be able to excrete some of these toxins, which are known as ama to Ayurveda, but a lot of the toxins, or even let's say daily, minor, tiny little amounts of these toxins slowly build up in the body. And the body doesn't understand what to do with them really, because they're not part of the tissues. A lot of the body's dealing with never before seen products, chemicals. There's so many chemicals in the environment that have never been introduced into the human body before. And then, yeah, foods that are just we're not completely able to break down. So these toxins build up first in the digestive tract, and then they move into the deeper tissues over time. And this is the basis of how Ayurveda understands the disease process. So by the time I have a pain in my side and discover that my liver has an abscess, for example, which then Western medicine would, do a scan and diagnose, Ayurveda would see that process may have been going on for many, many years, which actually stems from, my eating foods or taking in substances, or living a lifestyle that doesn't enable me to fully digest what I'm eating. So these toxins are building up, and eventually move into, they can move anywhere. And it's often, as I said, our dosha, which if I'm pitta, I take on more heat, I have inflammation, and may create a problem in my liver, which is a hot organ, a pitta organ. So that can be a weak spot, and that is what happens with me. But maybe with you, if you've got more, let's say, your water or an earth, so kapha dosha, for example, your tendency may be something else. And so even though, as the toxins build up, you'll have another problem that comes up for you. But it's all based on poor digestion. So keeping the digestion strong, keeping the body clean of toxins. And this is, actually, hang on, I'm just going to have a sip of water here.
Sure, ma'am.
So one of the really important therapeutic approaches of Ayurveda, which you've probably heard of, is Panchakarma. So the 5 cleansing actions of the body. And this is a really important aspect of the treatment of the human system, to help keep it clear of built up toxins, and also clear of excess doshas, excess fire, excess air, excess water, earth. Helps to keep the each individual, depending on what they've taken on or created that's impeding their balance, helps to cleanse the system. And I guess from a nutritional perspective, or with regards to eating behaviour, some modified fasting, resting the digestive fires is a really important aspect of Ayurvedic nutrition. and has really, I mean, you know, throughout time, traditionally fasting during different spiritual periods and festivals has been sort of integrated into daily living, and that has its roots not only in I guess working within the spiritual realm, but also maintaining good physical health, which I guess is enables us to move into the spiritual realm, of course, more you know, more effectively. So yes, so some modified fasting, and again that would be based on our dosha type. Vata dosha tend to be naturally slimmer and lighter, and perhaps a little less robust, because earth and air and ether are the main elements in their mix. So even, you know, modifying a day's eating to have some simple khichdi, which is a rice and usually a mung dal stew, let's say, with a few basic spices, is probably Ayurveda's favourite cleansing, rejuvenating, light food to eat. So, you know, even replacing a meal with khichdi or eating khichdi for 2 or 3 meals over a day can be a type of modified fasting, which helps to rest the digestion and helps the body naturally cleanse and reset itself. So some really simple practices like that. If you're Kapha dosha, which is a more robust dosha, so with dominant in the elements of earth and water, some little and these people tend to take on and store tissues more readily, and the digestion tends to be slow and low. So these people can actually manage much more stringent fasting, even, you know, just water or some, you know, sour juices or green juices, astringent juices, over a day, 2 days, 3, 5 days, a week even. And it, of course, you choose your times, you choose the season. The change of seasons is often a time where fasting, a few days or more of modified fasting are great to help the body move into the next season from a good cleansed state. So that's a very important part as well. So I'm just looking at the time. Hang on. Have I been talking for 40 minutes already?
But it's interesting.
Well, okay. Anyway, I guess that's a summary, let's say. Do you have any questions or anything that you'd specifically like me to talk about a little more?
Ma'am, I would like to ask that you have such experience. Can you share your experience with your patient, that how you build your rapport with the patient?
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. So when I'm meeting a new patient, I mean, and I guess the people that I see come from, it may be online, it may be face to face, it may be in India, it may be in different countries, and so I guess every time is a little different, let's say, but certainly building rapport with someone, I think, is first and foremost for me about approaching each person with from a completely open, non-judgmental, caring state. So it's not up to me to prejudge or to be thinking anything. So really to be very open to why each person is coming to me. And one of my first questions is always, of course, you know, what can I do for you today? Or, you know, when we're working through any issue, it's certainly foremost in my mind is what the patient or client is interested to gain from our work together. And I definitely see every encounter as a team effort. So it's not that I'm there to impart my wisdom or to come up with a specific idea that then that person has to take on. It's really a collaboration where through working together we can both benefit in the way that slowly come to a mutual understanding. I'm helping that person perhaps understand themselves better. They're helping me understand them better. And through that, I guess it's a team effort. And of course, Ayurveda is very much, it's not a system where you go, I mean, actually in some ways and in some places it has become quite westernized, where people will go to an Ayurvedic practitioner, they'll want a pill or a cream, or some herbs, go and take this, and that's done. But really, I guess from my perspective, that's a very limited approach, and people need to understand that if they're coming to me, that you're going to have to be prepared to make some dietary changes, some lifestyle changes, and then perhaps we might talk about some herbal therapies that can support, but without changing, particularly, and I call this the medicine of negation, without often reducing or stopping foods that are harmful that you're taking in the diet, activities that you're doing daily that are introducing more of the elements and qualities that are harmful for you. If you continue to do these things, you can't heal, no matter what pills, no matter what herbs you take. So the first step is often some dietary and lifestyle change to help reduce those foods and activities that are harmful, and then we can think about introducing some more foods and some more activities and maybe some herbs. But all this takes time, of course, and working very much at the pace that suits the individual as well. Does that kind of answer that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, one thing I wanted to ask that, patient comes with us and they have a favorite food. So even myself, I tried the dieting, but when there is a favorite food in front of you, then it's hard to control yourself. So how do you guide us to control on that particular part? Because, controlling is for a long time you follow a diet, then after one day when there is a favorite food is in front of you, it's hard to follow your particular diet.
Okay. I mean, firstly, I wouldn't think about your eating patterns as a diet in the sense of, I mean, and I guess you're talking, are you talking for weight loss first and foremost? Yes. Or, yeah. So, I mean, diets don't work. Changing, to look at it that way also is to look at, it as a snapshot. I'm going to go on a diet for a month and I'm going to lose 5 kilos. Now, you might do that and you might restrict what you're eating and, turn blue in the face, avoiding laddus and, things like that. But of course, when you go back to your normal eating patterns, the body is just going to regain that weight. And it's the tendency of the body to want to regain weight, because if losing weight was easy, then we'd be very much at risk of starving to death. So the body does have, is preset, let's say, to naturally sort of gain tissue where it can. So the only true, I guess, approach, or let's say the best approach that I can suggest is to really just, and I guess with the medicine of negation, there will be some foods in everyone's diet that you can probably think of now that you know. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a weight gain, you think they gain weight, but more importantly from an Ayurvedic perspective, because Ayurveda doesn't think in terms of weight, it's more, I guess, kapha dosha, the heavy elements that are in food, foods that are not going to support your digestion. So if they're foods that are heavy, foods that you eat and you go, oh, that was sort of, yeah, I can feel that sitting heavy. They're the foods that you don't need to avoid completely, but you need to start to slowly reduce. And you might reduce them a quarter each week over a month. You can reduce them and you can start to think about replacements. I spoke about refined oils, getting rid of refined oils from the kitchen. And, there's all the packaged oils that, and they look nice, and then, but the body finds them very difficult to digest. So what do they do in the body? They can't be broken down properly. They turn into toxins, or they get sort of distributed out to the tissues, because the body doesn't know what to do with them. So these are foods that you don't even have to reduce them necessarily, but replace them. And, please, you have ghee, you have beautiful natural clarified butter in India, and it's been given a bad name through the oil companies who want to sell their product. But in small amounts, ghee is a wonderful, easily digestible oil, highly nourishing. Let's go back to our roots. And also, of course, there's, olive oils and things like that, but always cold pressed. Don't look for, if you see it's refined, then make a better choice. I've got a bit off the track there, but really, yeah, don't think about cold turkey, got to do this, because your eating pattern is a lifetime thing. It's not a one-off proposition where you're going to change. And so if a food is sitting in front of you and you shouldn't eat it, I mean, first of all, try to avoid having the food sitting in front of you. But I know Indian mothers, and I'm actually at my husband's parents' house right now in Assam. And it's bihu, and I mean, gosh, the amount of sweets that are constantly being offered and in every household. So you have one, you have two, but and you really enjoy them. You really taste them. You don't be doing 2 to 5 things at once. Sit there and really be thankful for this food. Taste the food. Experience it in the body. Experience how it feels once you've eaten it. Understand what it's about. And then eating is a much more holistic experience rather than a mindless sort of, fill the stomach activity. And I guess, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time, and I do certainly address it in my book, because it's such an important, area, and how to change habits. So that's a major, I guess, aspect of my book. And also, I think a lot of eating goes on these days through, boredom, through having sort of that underlying, you know, not feeling great about yourself or about life, or a bit of tension, or, you know, so it's not that you actually need to address the food on the plate in front of you. I mean, you can, but also look to other aspects of your life and lifestyle to make little changes there where you can. You know, drink good water, get enough sleep is really important. Lack of sleep, I mean, there's certainly, you know, science tells us today that it increases certain hormones that drive hunger, and there's many other reasons why lack of sleep, you know, is not good for diet or health. You know, get enough, get fresh air, bring prana into the system. I mean, there are people who can just live off prana, but of course we, you know, us mere mortals can't do that, so we need to take our prana in through physical nourishment. But the better you breathe, the deeper you breathe, the you know, the more you relax the physical body and stop the tenseness and creating these toxins in the body, the better you'll feel, the less hungry you'll feel, the clearer you'll feel in the head, and, you know, the more readily you can make intelligent decisions without habitually just feeling like something's in front of me, so I need to eat it.
Ma'am, do you have any personalized recipe or something that everyone should include in their diet?
Not really, because of course health and nutrition are very personal. Everyone has their unique constitution, their, you know, unique tendencies and preferences. They're living in a particular area of the globe in a particular season. So all of these things actually determine what's best for a person at a particular time in a particular place. And as I said, that will change for that person over time and space as well. So not really, you know, but just to go back to what we were talking about earlier, I think, you know, just choose fresh, seasonal, local foods. And, you know, even also foods that your grandmother used to eat. Look to traditions, and don't be fooled by, you know, sparkly packaging and lots of words and big billboards and movie stars holding up, you know, certain things. That's all for food companies who are selling their, you know, their highly processed, chemical-laden foods. If we can call them foods, they're not, you know, health-inducing. They're only really creating the massive health problems that we, you know, have today. Yeah.
Ma'am, as you mentioned that there is your book, so how we can get your book? That if the person wants to read, then how we can get your book here in India?
Sure. So I've got a copy of it here. So yeah, well, at the moment, so the book was published through an American company. You can order it through Amazon. Amazon.com and Amazon India, it's available. But hopefully in the near future it will be printed locally and available from India, within India. At the moment it's, it comes from the US.
We would really like to read that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love you to read it. So Amazon.com. Actually, if you go to my website, I can send you the link to post if you like, and just the link to my new book on the website. I've listed a couple of websites that you can order it from India. But if you just sort of search the Art of Ayurvedic Nutrition, Susie Colles with one S, S-U-S-I-E, then yeah, hopefully it'll come up. And yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, they're more than welcome.
Ma'am, one question I would to ask, that is, how did you first attracted to the Indian holistic medicine? What made you attracted to that?
Karma. I think, yeah, as I said, actually, I'd visited India 3 times before I met my husband, who is Indian. But I'd had, you know, the Ayurvedic massages, but hadn't really thought about it deeply. But as soon as we arrived in India, and I was also at a point in my career where I'd been working in nutrition and researching, but not really feeling fulfilled or contented with my healing approach. That, yeah, it was sort of a natural, I would say, progression into a true healing therapy. And as soon as I started looking more deeply into Ayurveda, I, you know, felt like I'd come home finally to a paradigm, let's say, you know, a real sort of holistic worldview that I could relate to, that felt, yeah, that I understood and could really use tangibly for myself and the people that I work with.
Ma'am, in current scenario, there is COVID-19 ongoing in US and India and everywhere. So what would you recommend for the viewers and everyone, how to deal with this COVID-19 situation? Which diet which should prefer to?
Okay. So we've been going for a little while, and I kind of am going to have to move on. But I will say, in my blog, actually, I have written, which is available through my website.
Sure, ma'am.
One of my blogs is, yeah, Build Intelligent Immunity, I think it's called. So, I mean, there's a lot of information. Certainly, yeah, the key to managing not only COVID, but the world that we live in, which is constantly, we're coming across new viruses and bacteria. And that, I mean, we are largely viruses and bacteria, the human body. You know, we're not how we see ourselves when we look at ourselves. Really, bacteria, of course, make up the majority of our system, and so the body is used to taking these in. It's used to dealing with them, and it needs to understand the environment that it's living in, which is we're you know, completely interwoven, interrelating with the environment all the time. So just to help to maintain as I said, what I call an intelligent immunity, support the body's intelligence, support that the body can understand, you know, so keep it clean of toxins, you know, eat good foods that we've been talking about, have practices like, you know, sleeping relatively early, getting up early, physical activity. All of the basics are going to give you the best, give your body the best support for its natural intelligence. But in the blog, I go into that in a lot more depth and suggest some herbs and a lot of other aspects to help there. But yeah, you know, I mean, this is just a part of life. And actually, I mean, really, I think India has managed the virus so well. And now we're getting back to sort of, you know, a fairly normal existence again, whereas a lot of Western countries are sort of prolonging the agony and still suffering. So, yeah.
Sure, ma'am, we will get into your blog and read in details. Ma'am, last question from this side. Anything, suggestion or guidance you would like to share with like future doctors, all of your viewers and the future doctors like me? Any guidance you would like to give us?
Well, I just think, yeah, I mean, I guess what I've been suggesting today is that, you know, Western medicine has made huge inroads into looking at ever smaller aspects of the the human body. But I would say to studying doctors such as yourself that don't get too caught up down that rabbit hole and forget the bigger picture. Yes, by treating people as biochemical equations, or millimoles per litre of sugar and this sort of thing, it really does dehumanize the patients that you're working with. And it's not, from my perspective, it's not a holistic way of healing. So yeah, the beauty of Ayurveda is that it really considers every aspect of the human being in their environment, and only through helping patients to manage all of those aspects can someone truly be healthy. Yeah, that's, I guess. And I guess just to have a final dig at the pharmaceutical system, because I really feel like they are more of a business, and it is selling that quick fix to people, which, as I said earlier, without the supporting diet, without the supportive lifestyle, a lot of drug therapies do, and they're mostly really for acute illness, acute unwell, but they're turning into chronic. Of course, these conditions are becoming chronic because they're not being healed, and then people are taking these really strong therapies or pills throughout their life, which of course have side effects. So it's sort of a downward spiral. So yeah, not to get too caught up in the pharmaceutical system so much that without addressing the diet and lifestyle and natural therapies, herbal therapies that really support good health. A lot more holistically and without side effects.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your lovely guidance. And it was a wonderful session we had. I hope that in future we get a time to connect once again and gain your light of knowledge again. So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us time and joining with us.
Great. My pleasure. All the best. Namaste.
Namaste, ma'am.
Okay.